So hello everyone, welcome here to round number 8 of the 2017 NASA RallyCross Challenge season. We are at the brand new Seattle Speed Park in Seattle, Washington, and this track is absolutely amazing. We'll have to obviously show you an onboard lap in just a moment. We're coming down to the nitty-gritty in the NASA RallyCross Challenge, and this season's theme has been Red Bull, Subaru, MRT, and then maybe a sprinkling of Chris Wetz here and there. The MRT boys have been on the podium every single race this season. That is completely unheard of. Wetz has been on the podium every race except for Canada when Livengood was on the podium. So it's been an MRT and Revolution Racing affair and a lockout of the podium. Coming into this race, there are 66 points left on offer if you win your quarterfinal and the race. This is going to be absolutely astoundingly awesome, if that even makes sense, to see how this race is going to transpire. There's 1 point in it between the MRT boys, and this is the format. We have 8 cars here for today's race getting ready to go. It's going to give us 2 quarterfinal races. Remember last week it was a crazy long layout. We're back to the regular format, 6 laps apiece, joker lap once. The winner advances get 2 bonus points. Everyone else gets put into 2 semifinal races of 4 laps apiece. You have to take the joker once as well, and there you get a bonus point. The remaining 4 drivers will be in an LCQ of 3 laps. Joker once, and the top 2 will advance, and that gives us our 6-car, 8-lap joker twice final. We haven't talked much about the Privateer Cup before we jump right into the race coverage, but Casey Lester has essentially locked up the Privateer Cup in 2017C. We didn't talk much about it. Reason why is for the first 5 rounds this season, he won the Privateer Cup because it was basically him and Jacob Kraus, but Jacob Kraus had some issues on his car to where he would finish 6th in the events. That gave him 5 wins. He won last week in Irwindale, finished 2nd in Lakewood, so that's really an unassailable lead. So Casey Lester is your Privateer Cup champion for 2017C. With that being said, we're going to jump right into the first quarterfinal right after we show you this onboard lap. So on board car number 2, Josh Mertz, down into the right hand, 90-degree corner, turn 1. Grid was on your left-hand side. Penalty box on the right. This is actually a joker lap, so he's going to drop down to the ravine. The left-hand side there is the regular course. On to the straightaway to turn 3. Very tricky left 90-degree corner. Spits you out onto the curb to the tricky dirt, long, never-ending right-hand turn 4. Very tricky. Get the curb car to rotate. Miss the mountain on the left. Onto the asphalt. Down to the tricky section here, turn 5. Now we're going uphill, and you have to rely on the torque of this engine. 5, turn 6, very tricky. Get the car on the curb to rotate over the crest. Turn 6, very slow, 35 miles an hour. Out to turn 7, a very tricky course, but a very enticingly exciting course here in Seattle.
Oh man.
Remember, no joke.
Now I have to run against Phil? What the hell, man? What's wrong with you?
Jacob, why are you driving into people?
And 51, line us up. 6 laps, joker once, remember.
Josh, pull up. Good. Rouse, back up.
I'm not gonna go over there because it doesn't need mentioning, but exiting the joker on the right side, don't cut that grass. It's kind of a self-policing thing because it will wheelie you. So
easy, pull up a little bit.
Do it at your own risk. Getting ready for the first quarterfinal.
Good.
Second place in points, Mertz battling Jacob Kraus. Third man in points, Chris Wetz and Casey Lester. So the two
6 laps,
privateers
over once.
that have been battling each other
Fellow
all
drivers.
season will duel each other in the quarterfinal as well, getting ready for 6 laps here in Seattle. Wetz looks like he jumped the start a little bit. No penalty assessed, green flag. And off the line here in Seattle for the first race. What a circuit this will be. You'll see throughout this show, Jacob Kraus goes to the inside, pushes him and Lester wide as the manufacturer cars now will duel down to turn number 3. What a beautiful flowing circuit this track is. Turn 4. Wetz, Kraus side by side with Lester out of turn 4. Down the straightaway to turn 5. And these are some of the best cameras that our ASN crew have put together for this event. I really want to give kudos to these guys for finally, after 6 years, giving us some good camera angles. Very tricky crest
End of
through
1, 2 leads.
turn
Oh,
6.
sorry.
What are you talking
What?
about?
Oh.
At the end of the first lap,
I'll
Mertz
get a
leads.
review. End of 1 down, 2 leads.
Looks like contact
Joker's allowed.
between Lester and Kraus, and now the Joker lap's going to be allowed. Obviously, Wetz will run his Joker on the last lap of the race, more than
Racing
likely.
deal.
And you'll notice the flowing nature. We are nestled right in the trees here in Seattle. And a decent amount of fans came out for this first ever race here in Seattle, and what a great camera angle from high above. As Mertz trying to pull away, remember the first time we raced in the Pacific Northwest, it was last season at the Evergreen Speedway. That was a very tricky race, very slow race, very clunky race, and NASA decided that it was a terrible idea to race on such a small oval. So NASA logic, they drop a small oval for a small oval.
End of 2 leads.
Went to Irwindale last week, but the moral of the story here is this track is much more racier than Evergreen Speedway. Wetz still second, no Jokers out of the first 2. Lester looks like he will Joker now. So like I said, you drop right down there. There's a rut and a kind of a ditch at the bottom there. Designed to drain the water for when it rains up here in the Pacific Northwest. And they didn't cover that up. So you'll notice that the cars are going to bounce really hard through that ditch. It was tested. The cars aren't going to be damaged by it, but certainly should be interesting. Mertz still leads at a 57.970. And the Subaru is extremely quick through the twisty bit third sector. And this sector is some of the slowest corners in NASA Rallycross.
And a 3.
End of
Cross
3, 2
flags.
leads, cross flags.
Cross flags for Mertz in the 2. And I think he's just waiting for the last lap of the race. It is a faster lap. And he is going to force Wetz to follow him into the Joker. And we know Wetz will more than likely Joker on the penultimate or final lap of the race. Jacob Kraus struggling in the 42, put him back still in the 4th spot. Lester 3rd. As these two have played second and third fiddle to Philip Kraus all season long, the Canadian has been super consistent all season. Second, first, second, third, second. Versus Mertz has finished third or first. Very simple. Third or first all season. We would have to go down to find the difference in points. There's a 4-point gap.
End of 4, 2 leads.
We have to go down and count how many quarterfinals everyone's won. Mertz has won 4 quarterfinals. And Philip Kraus
You watch track
has
limits.
won 5. Mertz jokered. Little bit of issue
I'll
on the
have to
track
look.
limits there.
I think I hit it.
Or
We're at turn 1?
Joker.
Simple.
A little bit of communication from race control to Mertz.
I'll look.
As he has been, no pun intended, and I know I've said this statement verbatim, rallying back to try and take this championship. Remember at the first race of the season, like I said, when they raced in Croft, these guys are still racing as if that result from Croft, it happened. the white flag's out
Checkered
for
flag,
Mertz.
2 wins.
What are you talking
What?
about?
White
Sorry,
flag.
white flag.
No, it's here.
And so, like I said, at the first race of the season, they ran in Croft. It counted for points, but because of there was a track glitch, and it caused Mertz to be scored in last. So everyone agreed, and they're still debating it, but race control agreed that that race still counts, but they're thinking about next week in Vancouver
Download it off TeamSpeak. It's new.
removing that result. So these guys are still racing like this is the
Sorry, race chat.
penultimate round of the season. So Mertz technically would be down on points.
Yeah. We're finishing.
Just give it a minute.
Checkered flag, sorry. Mertz wins the quarterfinal.
Checkered flag, 2 wins.
It's in the description of the room.
Yeah.
Followed
I didn't
by
mean
the
to
Wetz,
T3.
I
Kraus,
didn't mean to say
and Lester.
no, I was just. Oh, you're good. You're good. Finishing up.
What? Did you blow a gear? It looked like you blew a second. Yeah, yep, you did.
Followed
Yeah,
by the
hold on.
50.
You're not having a fun time at this track if you both
And
second.
Kraus rounds him out.
Yeah, I would die if that happened.
All right, hold on. Let me get the results.
That's 4 off in the grass.
No, I see it. To me, it looked I was off and then I was on, and
Hey, you were
I
off
had-
for a little bit.
10-4. I didn't know.
Well, I told you.
It didn't change the results of the race at all. So,
I've got everything. We're good for the second quarter.
What's just fucking died out of the Joker.
Oof,
Hit the wall.
yeah, I saw that.
I was like, oops.
We good for a reset?
10-4. Once the 76 gets in.
It's still the pink number one.
I'll just use a 42, not 76.
I was gonna say, just use a fucking 76.
Just use a 76.
Yeah, just use 76 bows.
That's still the pink one.
Yeah,
it
it's
doesn't
fine.
matter.
It doesn't fucking matter. Mine's still the pink one.
Who cares, man?
Just use the pink
Breast
one.
cancer awareness
Breast cancer
December,
awareness.
asshole.
Yeah,
Anyways.
well, it's year round now. Realized that my OCD is starting to kick in. There's an extra white line at the back of my car.
Oof.
Like there's an extra white triangle
No,
on
there
the other
isn't.
side. The exhaust is there.
Yeah, for some
those
reason.
Those are by design. It's just the exhaust covers one of them. Okay.
I'm getting it right now. For some reason, my fucking wheel was like set up, and it was like 900 degrees. Like, why the hell is it like this? Because I know it's not turning.
Hey, pass the
Oh,
grip.
you guys exited the track. I thought you guys were doing a pace lap or something like that.
No.
No, we don't pace.
You guys confusing me. All right.
Pull up.
We never
24.
paced.
24 pull
Human
up.
seating.
Good.
Ooh, it's windy out here.
76 pull up. 76. Keep going. Keep going. Good.
Well, hi,
One
Phil.
good. 51.
Getting ready for the second quarterfinal. It's going to be the Honda teammates of Victor Valley, Noah Carmichael, Dylan Livingood in the Mitsubishi, and
Pull up
Philip
a
Kraus,
smidge.
points leader.
76 back up a smidge. 51 good. 76 good. 6 laps. Joker once. Good luck, gentlemen.
Points leader between the Hondas and Livingood in Seattle. Remember, Livingood originally from Washington. Should be interesting. Green flag. Off the line, Livingood gets a good jump over Kraus. Valley on the inside on the Honda, battling to turn 1, or turn 2, sorry. Livingood got bumped by Carmichael, who bumps Valley, so the Honda's out of the way, and Philip Kraus to the lead in the Subaru.
Start is good.
Livingood late on the brakes in the 51, slid the car, tried to get the car to rotate. That was a very good line through the corner, but the Canadian won't be able to make anything happen. On to the asphalt once again. That dirt bull corner is one of the best in the NASA RallyCross Challenge. Into turn 4. Livingood loops it in the 51 and gets hit by the Honda of Victor Valley.
One car.
So, Philip Kraus has a 4-point lead. Now, tentatively, down to 2 points as he leads at the end of the first lap.
End of one leads. Joker's alive.
He has not won for 3 weeks, but doesn't mean that he is not more determined than ever to win in the NASA RallyCross Challenge. through turn 2. The Honda's second and third. Living Good looks like he will joker in the 51 in fourth. I don't know where that's going to put him in relation to these guys behind them both. But Philip Kraus certainly determined to win the championship again. Remember, he won last season for Area 52 Racing. Cody Erdman took a sabbatical once again from the series, so Area 52 shuttered for the season. And what better place than MRT for Philip Kraus? And he's really developing into the long-term teammate that Erdman once was. Remember, Mertz has a long-time standing that once you're one of his teammates, you will always be a teammate. Unless you're Dylan Livingood.
End of 2, 1 lead.
A very peculiar deal that they set up last season, but it did work. And the NASA Rallycross Challenge going on strong still here in 2017 C. Remember, this is season number 14. And we're coming up on 2018 in the calendar year. Still in December here. And series still going strong. 57-9-4-5, 57-8-8-3, 57-5-2-3 to a 102-2. And Kraus still pushing, even though he has a decent gap over everyone else in this heat race. And this uphill section, extremely difficult to get right. Let's go on board car number 1.
End of 3, 1 leads, cross flags.
He's got a huge gap over the rest of the field in this heat race. Valley, Living Good, and Carmichael just arrived at the circuit, so Carmichael is treating this as his practice, essentially. Coming to 2 laps to go for Philip Kraus in car number 1.
End of 4, 1 leads.
2 wins this season, a podium every other race, and the amount of times that these teammates, as he slides it in the 1, the amount of times that these teammates have pushed each other to outperform the other is astounding. Valley Jokers in the 24. Living Good still third. We'll expect the 51 to joker as well. The 76 struggling. But Philip Kraus certainly proving why he has car number 1 and the red plate on his car. MRT slowly
Third,
closing in.
Damn it.
Valley, blue third gear in the Honda. But Kraus and Mertz are proving why MRT are essentially, after this race, a 7-time Constructors champion. Also Bridgestone and
End of 5, 1 leads, white flag.
Subaru for those respective championships. As the only other races was last week when Wets won, and when Wets won again at the beginning of the season. Kraus jokers in the 1. So we'll find Valley here in the 24. Living Good already jokered, remember. So I think it's just going to be a formation finish here in the heat race. But we certainly started out a little slow, remember. We had only 6 cars. Out of the regulars, it was only 5 cars. As Alan Ballacino, I believe, one of Chris Wetz's good buddies, arrived at the circuit with him, jumped into one of the cars and said, "I'll race." He only made that 1 start. Jacob Kraus returned after a long-awaited absence. Came back in Canada. He's ran every race since, and Carmichael and Valley returned in Lakewood. Kraus wins the quarterfinal again in Seattle.
Final 2 in transfers.
The gap is back down
Spicy for the championship.
to 4 points. Valley second, Living Good
Second in the
third,
24.
Carmichael fourth.
If I didn't get held up at the beginning there, I would have probably had him. Or I had at
Third
least
is
a
the
shot at
51.
getting him.
Oh, if I wouldn't have gotten spun.
I mean, you spun yourself.
What the cause of the spin? Oh, okay.
He probably locked the rears.
By the way, Noah, thanks for not killing me there on the start. Yeah, just
Damn
back
it.
it up.
Where's the
Back
base
up.
car at? Let me hit that at least.
Semi-final one will be the 23.
Oh.
Come on, Jeff, get on track.
I got damage from that,
So-
though.
Everyone picks the sequential grid spots, and it always makes me sad.
It makes sense for this track.
23 pull up. Good. 76 pull up by literally like 2 inches. Good. 4 laps, Joker once.
Wets, Carmichael,
Look at Fun
Valley.
Drivers.
For the first semifinal, it's all manufacturer cars, and 2 of these guys are going to the LCQ. Revving them up. Very long time for the lights. In Seattle. Green flag. Off the line, Wets gets a good jump. He's going to be battling with Valley into turn 2. Down the hill, Carmichael gives the 23 a nudge,
Start is good.
but Wets pulls away from Valley in the 24. And getting back on my previous story, we had the 6 cars. So Mertz, Kraus, Wets, Living Good, Lester have been a constant all season. Valley and Carmichael came back in Lakewood South. Kraus came back in Canada, and Berg has been sporadic since Lakewood North. So we've had a consistent 8 cars, which is very nice for the NASA RallyCross Challenge, having a steady squad of drivers. As rumor has it that iRacing will have RallyCross in June of 2018.
Jokers allowed 23 leads.
So we shall see potentially our farewell season with the Generation 3 regulations. But we'll definitely keep you posted throughout next season, as this season hasn't even finished yet. Let's see who jokers on the first lap of the race. Nobody does. As Wets
Careful, 24.
battling with Valley. And Valley pushing hard because he believes that he could have caught Philip Kraus in the second quarterfinal. That's a tall order, as now he slides it in the 24, and I talk about him, and it takes him out of it, and he definitely won't be able to catch Wets in this semifinal, but Valley thought, and nothing against him, but the Hondas don't have the pace that the Subarus do. Remember, the Honda is a brand new program, and if we joke about Formula One, how Honda performs there, Honda has performed equally in the NASA RallyCross Challenge
End
versus
of 2, 23 leads, cross flags.
the established Mitsubishi and Subaru teams. 57.408 for Wets. With 2 laps to go, the American tries to seal another semifinal victory. If I look at our
Warning,
results
24,
board,
track limits.
as Valley Jokers, if
Second warning this race.
we look at our results board, Wets has won 2 quarterfinals, and it looks like 3 semifinals. But if he continues it, it'll be 4 semifinals, but he still has a lap and a half to go. And we talked about every week how
And I
Chris
lost third
Wets,
again.
proving my point about the Honda equipment also, as Valley has blown 3rd gear in the Civic. Wets is one of the fastest guys in the NASA RallyCross Challenge, the one that's keeping up with the Subarus, but he can never close the championship deal. And he had it at the beginning of this season, the series inception back in 2012
3,
B.
23 leads, white flag.
He had a couple opportunities in 2014. And he still is mathematically in this title hunt. And he's been on the podium every race except for Canada. We'll have to see as the American Jokers. The American Chris Wets has the potential to win a championship. But the lack of consistency that we've always talked about hinders him.
And 4th is now blown.
And the Honda's blown 4th gear. Valley not having a good day. And definitely talked about the Honda reliability in Formula One. It is being mirrored here in NASA Rallycross. Not a problem with reliability on this guy. The Mitsubishis rarely blow gears anymore, actually, as he runs it wide in the 23. Chris Wets hardly blows a gear,
Semifinal A
but he wins the semifinal.
Followed by the 24.
Valley and Carmichael to the LCQ.
See if I can blow this thing up.
And
Steve,
76 will
you see,
finish
Vic,
third.
if you didn't have a Honda engine, that wouldn't happen.
42 back up.
Freak. How times change.
And you're leading the second potential championship victory for you. How times change. 51, you're good. 42 back up. 42, good. Now you were until you decided to go back to China. Pull up 50. China was the first country that came to my mind too. 50 pull up.
China!
He went back to Irwindale.
50 pull up. Thank you. 42 pull up. Good. 4 laps, Joker once.
Second semifinal in Seattle. It's the Privateers versus Living Good. Lester's kind of blurring that line between Privateer and Constructor Car, though, as we take the green flag. It's going to be interesting to see if the Mitsubishi can battle the factory car. He definitely has the pace as Casey Lester leads us. Never mind. He had it. Commentator's curse happens way too many times. He had the launch over Living Good, and now he's battling Kraus once again. And we talk about Mitsubishis, we talk about reliability, we talk about Wets potentially winning a championship. And now, we talk about this guy, Dylan Livengood. At one time, was a force for the championship, was a force to win races, podiums, championships, you name it. And something just isn't clicking inside of car number 51 anymore.
End of 1. 51 leads. Joker is allowed.
And I'm not entirely sure if it was the regulation change. Remember, we used to run 4-speed boxes with lighter cars and slower cars. And then we changed to the 6-speed boxes, higher downforce, higher speeds. Obviously, the 6-speed gearboxes, more gears.
Yeah, I see.
And then this season, we changed to the 4-speed boxes of old, but faster cars and heavier cars, as the weight was increased. So I don't think the 51 has gelled very well with the Gen 2, as they're called, or now the Gen 3 regulations. He was perfect on the slower style cars because there's something inside the driving style, inside the cockpit, that was very good. 13 times a race winner and 4 times a driver's champion in the NASA Rallycross Challenge for the Rockstar Mitsubishi. But we talk about reliability, and
51 leads, cross flags.
we take cross flags. The running order has not changed. It allows me to mention these stories. We talk about reliability in the
Warning to the
Mitsubishis.
51.
Mowing the lawn, so add on a
Warning
lawnmower
to the
blade.
50.
But we remember when the 51, we ran it, that was 2016A, Proving Grounds North. He blew 3rd and 4th gear. Now these guys run the same box. We know the MRT guys prefer an H-style box to get the car to lock up the rear brakes when you're engine braking. That's how they're much quicker than the rest of the field. But the 2 Revolution Racing boys run a sequential box. It's both with just a little bumper stick to go up and down. And Livengood keeps blowing gears, and Wets does not blow gears very often. I'm not sure if it's just driver error, if Wets has a different style. It must be. But Livengood certainly hasn't
3,
had
51 leads, white flag.
good luck. White flag. Lester's been lurking, but since he ran it off the road on the start, he really hasn't been close to taking the fight to Livengood. As Livengood has won, looks like 5 semifinals this season and a quarterfinal in Negus. Remember when he beat out Philip Kraus in Canyon City. Transferred from the LCQ in Lakewood South, but it looks like he will add on another semifinal victory. Will make that 6 semifinal wins for the Canadian. And the highest he's finished is 3rd. That was one of his home races in Canada. Up the hill for the final time in semifinal B. Interestingly enough, this will be the 4th consecutive semifinal B victory for Livengood.
Checkered flag, winning semifinal B is the 51.
Thank you.
To the LCQ goes the 50. And we're waiting for the 42. Yeah, like I
Good
said,
run,
guys,
Casey.
the curbs are really slippery. You can
Wait,
race
what?
on them. You just you gotta be careful.
Once you hit them, then you're just like on and off the track.
We're waiting for the 42 to finish up, but yeah.
He's gonna get there eventually, guys.
I think you went all four off and you gassed it, and there's no grip on the curb.
Oh, he hit the wall just like Thomas
Really?
Schechter.
Can we hire a doctor car?
We need a doctor car for Jacob after that.
Number 42 is the new doctor car.
I need antidepressants after that.
Come on.
What are we supposed to be holding on to? Like my shifter?
Or hold on to that.
24,
Good.
76, 50, 42.
Oh.
So if he really wants it
Okay,
outside
3
spot.
laps.
Joker
Joker
won.
won.
I am back, so. Top 2 transfer. Good luck, gentlemen.
So
It doesn't matter.
42. Are you sure, Casey? If you want that spot.
It's fine.
Okay, Casey, pull up.
Okay, hold on.
What are we supposed to be holding on to? Like my shifter?
Or hold on to that.
24,
Good.
76, 50, 42.
Oh.
So if he really wants
Okay,
it outside
3
spot.
laps.
Joker won.
won.
I am back, so.
The
Top 2
constructor
transfer. Good luck,
cars
gentlemen.
battle the privateer, Valley, Carmichael, Lester, Jacob Krause, green flag in Seattle. Valley gets a great jump over the other 3. He's side by side with Jacob Krause into turn number 2. Out of the corner, Jacob Krause leads in the Ford, but he gets passed by Valley. What a start for Jacob Krause, who has not had a good season so far in the NASA RallyCross Challenge. Let's see if he can keep it up. He's battling Lester in the 50. Around turn 4, down to turn 5. This is a huge story for Jacob Krause, who's picked up pace. Valley leads us. Krause outbrakes himself and slides it in the 42. Makes contact with Valley and Lester.
No penalty.
Still holds second.
I had to save that fucker.
Lester
too.
battling with Carmichael and Krause. These 3 are under a blanket. Lester hip checks Carmichael. And Jacob Krause under acceleration. Looks like he had some issues.
24 leads. Joker is allowed.
Makes contact with the 76 and will put him back to 8th. 4th in the LCQ, 8th overall. So, out of all those shenanigans, Casey Lester's in the transfer spot. Valley has led the LCQ from the get-go. If we look at the results, Valley has won the LCQ the last 2 weeks. And he transferred through the semifinal in Negus, and he finished 2nd in the LCQ in Lakewood South. So, Valley really is the best of the rest when it comes to the manufacturer cars. With the Honda program, the MRT boys and Revolution Racing boys have swept the quarterfinals and the semifinals. If we look at it, I believe, as this is round number 8, 6 out of the 8 races. The only time that they did not was Negus, and then Proving Ground South.
24 leads. White flag.
White flag for Valley. And we're at the back of the field. Lester comfortably in the transfer spot. Carmichael 7th and Jacob Krause in 8th. Krause had it in his fingertips. And then something went wrong and car number 42 had an issue under acceleration, tossed it off the road. He jokered in car number 50. You might have seen in the corner of the shot there. Didn't come anywhere close to passing Valley. But it really only matters for a grid choice. And with it being the LCQ, you both grid on the back row anyway, unless someone forfeits the front row. But that's a very rare occasion, given the manufacturer car dominance. Carmichael and Krause looks like they're going to come home 7th and 8th for the round of Seattle. 9th place goes to Brendan Berg. He was not here, but he did get a provisional. Lester's getting close to the 24. Remember, for the LCQ victory, he makes contact with him.
No, fuck my life.
Lester, I believe, is going to let the 24 through to win the LCQ. He finishes
24
second.
wins the LCQ. 52nd.
Carmichael 7th and Krause at 8th.
73rd, 42 4th.
What a surprise, boys!
I mean, I would.
Oh.
I'd
That's
go
gonna
to
work
Patrick's.
in the morning. You cross, Jake.
I almost needed some water after that one, because that one was almost really spicy.
I should have waited. I should have waited until Noah passed both of us, and then would never pass Casey, and then wouldn't that have put me in? Because I don't know. Either way. That would have been pretty spicy if that happened.
I'm guessing no penalty. I mean, I don't want to call one. You let him.
No, I'm not gonna call a penalty on that.
He let me go back.
let him go
so,
by,
yeah.
and it did
I
not
was
make
gonna
out
say
for
if
the
I
race.
if I had waited like a second longer, Noah got by both of us, and basically, yeah. In case
that
he
would have
crossed
been
the line
kind
a
of
second.
cheap, but alright.
Oh, I know. I'm just saying. I'm just
Yeah, I
saying.
probably still would
if I
have
didn't get
called
gas.
the.
If I didn't get back to
penalty.
the gas, I'm saying is if I spun
Yeah.
further around. Not
I
that
have
would
the
wait.
results in the replay.
I
Do you
would have
want me
loved
to-
to.
Do you want me to stay after and call the laps? Mertz, pull up a little bit.
If I was
If
gonna
you
go
go
bowling, I
back-
would have been behind Phil. I want to start behind Josh.
Living good, back up a smidge.
If you
good?
go bowling, I'm gonna be pissed.
Yeah.
Oh, I'm not gonna go bowling.
Mertz, pull up a little bit.
If I was
If
gonna
you
go
go
bowling, I
back-
would have been behind Phil.
Well, if you would have been behind me, you would have only bowled one car. If you're behind Mertz, you're gonna bowl half the field.
Alright,
No.
gentlemen.
It's all about a strike or no strike.
Getting ready
Eight
for the
laps,
Seattle
twice.
Grand
Good
Prix.
luck, gentlemen. Thank
Hey,
you.
lads,
Good
good
luck.
luck,
Good
good luck,
Poppin'
have fun.
The back of Dylan's car says Rockstar. Alright, sorry.
Mertz, Wetz, Living Good, Kraus, Lester, and Valley. For 8 laps in Seattle, this is going to be a hell of a race. Green flag off the line. Living Good gets the jump over the MRT boys and his Revolution Racing teammate into turn 2. Kraus gives him a little bump in the 2 to the 51. He hits Living Good and contact. I ruined that call.
Let's pull up.
Wait a minute. I changed my mind. I want to start behind Josh.
Living good, back up a smidge.
If you
good?
go bowling, I'm gonna be pissed.
Yeah.
Oh, I'm not gonna go bowling.
Mertz, pull up a little bit.
If I was
If
gonna
you
go
go
bowling, I
back-
would have been behind Phil.
Well, if you would have been behind me, you would have only bowled one car. If you're behind Mertz, you're gonna bowl half the field.
Alright,
No.
gentlemen.
It's all about a strike or no strike.
8 laps, Joker twice. Good luck, gentlemen. Thank you.
Hey, lads,
Good
good
luck.
luck,
Fair.
good luck,
Poppin'
have
Bills.
fun.
The back of Dylan's car says Rockstar.
Getting ready for the Seattle Grand Prix. Mertz, Wetz, Living Good, Kraus, Valley, Lester. Green flag off the line. Living Good gets a great jump. Wetz is sandwiched between the MRT boys into turn 2. Into the corner. Kraus bumps Living Good, who bumps his teammate Mertz. Mertz is sideways. Living Good sideways. He hits Kraus, and around is the championship leader! Off the road goes both of them. Mertz leads.
My bad there, Phil.
Kraus in 6th spot. Living Good 5th. 4th is Lester. 3rd Wetz. 2nd Valley. Mertz holds the lead.
Server? Question mark.
Valley trying to hold 2nd spot. Oh, this is
Server. Server. Red flag. Red flag. Red flag. Red flag. Server's dead.
Jesus Christ, that was scary.
The full restart.
Whoa, what is the Lord Jesus?
Phil, what are you doing, buddy?
Hey.
Phil, back up. Okay. Pull up a little. No, back up.
Back
Stop.
the fuck up.
Okay.
I was trying
Sorry,
to lighten up.
Mertz, I believe you're good.
Hey, I
Living
helped
good,
Josh.
Back up a smidge.
Go back up a smidge.
Living good.
You're welcome, Josh.
Forward,
Pull
forward,
up.
forward. Stop.
Good. Nope,
Am I good or?
good.
Good.
Try it again.
8 laps, Joker twice.
Good luck.
Getting
Jess.
ready for the Seattle Grand Prix. It's the manufacturer cars in the front row. Mertz, Wetz, Living Good, Kraus. Then it's Valley and Lester. Green flag for the Seattle Grand Prix. Off the line is Living Good in car number 51, leading us to turn 1. Sandwiched is Wetz with the MRT boys. Contact between Kraus and Living Good into Mertz. Out of turn 2. Living Good gets to the gas, but turns Kraus.
Red flag.
No, how many was that?
That was 2.
2.
That's
Was
no
it
red
2?
flag.
No red flag.
Oh, you got me.
And the points leader gets turned on the start in Seattle and put him back to 6th. His championship fighting teammate in the lead. Valley second. Wetz all over the track in third, battling with Lester. Lester goes to the inside on car number 23. Kraus is way off the road in car number 1. Race control reviewing that incident after the race.
From my side, it looked like a racing deal.
As remember, Jacob Kraus is not a part of race control. He called a red flag, but that call is denied.
End of 1, 2 leads.
But Mertz takes the lead and holds the lead. In car number 2, 3-time winner this season, and he immediately jokers in the 2. Wetz jokers as well. Very strange to see. And Kraus, we are going to pay attention to this man all race long, because you know Philip Kraus will be driving like a bat out of hell. Valley battling Wetz. He nearly pushed him off the road, was the 24. Very aggressive as Valley, trying to get a podium spot today in Seattle.
We get thrown inside the view here, Wetz.
Taking the inside on Chris Wetz is Victor Valley, the man from Indianapolis, from the man from Texas. Side by side, Wetz blows the corner in the 23 and will put Valley through to the second spot, but he had issues under acceleration, so put Wetz back to second.
This is spicy.
And now Valley to the inside, trying the over-under. This third sector, really allows for good racing. Mertz still holds the lead, out and away from the rest of the field. This is the style race that Mertz likes. He controls it from the front while everybody else is racing for every other spot. Wetz's strategy, peculiarly, is done. So, this is going to be interesting. Lester looks like he had issues entering the Joker, and he drove it into the penalty box wall. 5th is Livingood. 4th is Philip Kraus. 56 flat to his teammate of 56.4. So Mertz is going to be cruising for the rest of this race. You know that. He's not worried about Wetz. He's not worried about Valley. He's worried about this guy, his teammate. As they run, Mertz is the points leader. So we can put an imaginary red plate on car number 2. This is huge for the championship.
3, 2 leads.
56.2. Let's see what Wetz
Has the
runs.
one joker twice.
Yes.
No.
56.8. So I believe Mertz's strategy is done. So he's pushing. Wetz's strategy is done. And Valley's strategy, I think, is done. Remember, he just asked race control if Mertz had jokered or not, or rather, asked Jacob Kraus, filling in as race control, if Mertz had jokered twice. So this is interesting because the strategies are done, and Mertz has that big of a gap over the rest of the field. 56.210, 55.7 for Wetz, 56.7 for Valley, and Philip Kraus 56.8. Remember, Livingood 5th, Lester 6th. That running order has not changed. It's very tricky. That turn 2, very slippery under acceleration. A little bit of bumping sent Kraus into Livingood, into Mertz, Livingood back into Kraus. And this man, who is not, technically, if they ended right now, the points leader, fighting Valley for the 3rd spot. I don't think he'll be able to get up to 2nd, but we'll have to see. Past Valley to 3rd. Mertz still technically holds the points lead, and now Philip Kraus, a man on a mission after being spun in turn number 1, trying to take another 1-2 finish for MRT. And Wetz off the corner makes Kraus's day much easier and looped it off of the dirt. Remember, this is big for Wetz too, because he has not been off the podium since Canada. If he does not make the podium,
End of 5, 2 leads.
the same 3 guys that have stood on the rostrum for the last 5 weeks will be disrupted. But this is the fight. Philip Kraus just ran the fastest lap of the race, a 55.394. His teammate a 57.1 as Kraus slid it again. He did that in the quarterfinal. I think Mertz has a blown gear. We'll have to see. We're looking at telemetry on car number 2. 52.6 was his fastest lap. He ran a 57.1. So he's definitely feeling the pressure, I think, of his teammate. If we're looking at telemetry, he does not have first gear. But you know he doesn't want to announce that over the public scanner because his teammate will be even faster. But that's where he's struggling. Will everything come unglued for car number 2? Kraus battling with Valley for the second spot. Valley pushing really hard to try and disrupt this MRT party at the front of the field. 2 laps to go for Mertz. His teammate ran a 58.163. He ran a 58.5. 4/10 of a second is gone between the teammates. Running it wide is Kraus. Not sure if that's going to be a track limits warning. Kraus pushes it wide in turn number 2. Remember, there's a bump right on the apex there. I don't know if that's deliberate from car number 2, but Valley followed him. I think he might be viewing that as a good strategy.
Yes.
Mertz asking over the scanner if his teammate has jokered twice. Remember, these guys do run an open scanner, hence why it is featured on our broadcasts. It makes this series so much more entertaining when the drivers can chat to one another. It really doesn't allow for any strategy to be hidden. Mertz will come through the 3rd sector without first gear. We'll have to see what happens. 33 miles an hour through that corner. White flag for the German.
7-2 leads.
Is that white flag?
White flag.
57.1 to a 58.1. There is a second taken out of the gap. That is it. That's all it is between the teammates, but I don't think Philip Kraus is going to be able to take this fight. He has pushed like a madman to come from spinning right there to finishing potentially second. Running it wide in turn 3. We're going to come through the wide sweeping turn 4 dirt. Remember, Wet dropped a wheel off the dirt into the grass and looped it off that corner right to the right there. And I think Wetz is not going to be on this podium. That's your running order. Remember, Livingood and Lester, that running order has not changed either. So this will tie the all-time wins record in the NASA Rallycross Challenge with Mertz, Livingood, and Cody Erdman, as Mertz will come off of the final corner and win once again in NASA Rallycross, and the 4th time this season here in Seattle. Another 1-2 finish for MRT.
Close.
24.
Hell yeah.
23.
Those were the fastest fucking laps I've ever driven.
Bill, you were probably like worried for your fucking life. Oh, sorry. Sorry,
And
Josh.
contact
I did
sends
not
the
mean-
2 over.
Did not mean to do that. My bad.
Warning to the 24 after the race.
I'm sorry. I thought I was just gonna bump you.
Win number
Good
30.
Win, Josh.
Oh, shit.
Win number 30 for Mertz here in Seattle. And what a race that this track has developed. As we go into the last 2 rounds of this championship, there is 1 point between these guys. 1 point. And anything can happen in these last 2 races. And if we think about it this way, with 1 point, if one of them slip up, the championship is the other drivers. Because they've been on the podium for 8 races in a row. We hope you enjoyed today's coverage here of NASA Rallycross on the Automotive Sports Network here in Seattle. Next week, we go right north of the border to Vancouver. What a hell of a race that always produces. So we hope you can join us there. This championship's getting close, but it should be good. We hope to see you next week in Seattle. We hope to see you next week in Vancouver. But until then, so long, everyone.